Your last answer, Eric, kind of brings me to the next question that I wanted to ask. I was going to ask you, was there one particular race that you focused on heading into the 2008 election which you felt was most important, and I take it that was the race?
Yeah, on a local level, the county commission race was the most important race for Sarasota County on the local level, clearly. Vern Buchanan's was also important too, in order to make it so that nobody will also run against him in the future. But the county commission race, for the good of the county, that was the most important race.
Vern probably had a lot of the money in the organization to kind of take care of his own business, but probably the county apparatus needed to get behind.
Donald Miller outraised her 5-1. He raised $100,000. She raised $20,000. He ran a very negative. He ran some mudslinging ads. Really tarnished Carolyn Mason, but she still ran, but still won by double digits.
Carolyn Mason, first black female, I think, ever elected to the county commission. Why did you...
Countywide race.
In any countywide race. Why Carolyn Mason?
If you stop and look, we want to make sure we got somebody with depth and experience. It had nothing to do with her race. It had to do with the fact that she used to be the mayor of the city of Sarasota. She was strong in North County, and so all we had to do was worry about South County. You have to live in District 1, so you wanted somebody who didn't have to worry about shoring up support in the North County and could concentrate all of our efforts on the South County. Her candidate, the Democrats' candidates, they took South County for granted, worried about North County, was trying to beat us there. But they couldn't buy. They didn't have enough money to buy the name recognition that Carolyn Mason already had, and so she just concentrated on South County.
The Pelican Press, among some of the other publications, they specifically referred to Carolyn Mason as somebody with scant credentials, is how they referred to her. Do you think that with the papers that we have in Sarasota County, do you think Republican candidates are treated fairly?
Oh, without a doubt, they are not. For example, John McCain didn't get to write a write-up in the New York Times. I wasn't allowed to do a guest editorial, but the chairman of the Democratic Party was. On the primary night and the general election night, the chairman of the Democratic Party was allowed to be on SNN, but the Republicans were not allowed to have a representative on SNN. It's the Herald Tribune just tore us apart on a fairly regular basis.
Now they kind of, I saw Tom Tryon wrote an article kind of defending himself, saying, "Wait a minute, we endorsed between Manatee and Sarasota, we endorsed 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats total." Of course, one thing I noticed is they sort of endorsed the Republicans in the lopsided races. Right. Do you feel that the editorial page of the Herald Tribune is balanced?
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. I called them up for things that needed to be changed. There were actually stories that were written, not going into specifics, where they didn't even show up for the event, wrote about the event, wrote articles about things that they didn't show up to, which is clearly highly unethical. We have videotape showing that they weren't there at the event, called them on it, and their response was that, we don't care, and that if you get the video out, they said pretty antagonistic things.
Looking back on your tenure as chairman, is there one thing, and I know the Republicans won, I think, every local race except for tax collector, maybe. Is that right?
Right. And Keith Fitzgerald's race.
And Keith Fitzgerald's race.
We weren't expected to win those. We won every race that we expected to win.
Well, is there any one thing that you look back on your tenure and point to it and say, that's the thing I'm most proud of? What would it be?
I'd probably say Carolyn Mason's race. The fact that Carolyn Mason won I'm most proud of. And the thing as the people is that this was truly an election of the people. There were a lot of races that the power that be got behind. John O'Miller's one, Jim Todor's another, but the voters had other intentions, and then we made sure that the voters' voices were heard.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about is the recent election where you decided you wanted to spend more time with your family, not run for re-election as REC chairman. Joe Gruder's Vern Buchanan's campaign manager ran, and somebody ran for chairman. It's actually a close race. Walt Augustinowicz stepped up. He was a guy that I've been to a lot of REC meetings. I'd never seen the guy before. Where did he come from, and why did he run for chairman? What was the story behind that?
It's a little bit long answer, but basically it's the Ron Paul people who essentially don't believe in the power of the vote or democracy. They keep trying to overturn the will of the people They didn't win. Ron Paul didn't win in the election, so what did they try to do? They try to pack the delegation there. They seem to think that the Republican Party dictates to Vern Buchanan how to vote, and they don't understand it's the people who do that. And they're very confused, very misguided, and their tactics are all wrong.
How did they make it such a close election, though, at the REC?
Well, the REC is made up of people, and unfortunately, they pack the room. I mean, if you get your people there, the apathy in elections, especially after election December, is pretty high.
Okay. Eric, thanks a lot. I mean, we learned a lot tonight. You were a great guest, and I hope to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, our Weasel of the Week.
The Weasel, I see the empty pocket needs a refill. I got a squad with a...
Law enforcement officers have probably the most difficult job in our society. I've been working in the criminal justice system for 15 years, both as a state and federal prosecutor and also on the defense side. And I taught at the Criminal Justice Academy in Sarasota for 10 years, some full-time and some part-time. And so I have a lot of respect for police officers and deputy sheriffs and the work that they do. However, it is important for them to be of the highest integrity and highest character and be above board at all times. And sometimes there are officers that we hear about all the time. There are complaints. You hear the same certain 2 or 3 names all the time, over and over again, doing illegal things, violating people's rights, searching cars when they're not supposed to, searching homes when they're not supposed to. And you hear these complaints over and over again about these few bad apples. One of those we heard about is our Weasel of the Week, which is Sarasota County Sheriff's Deputy Dan Tutko. Deputy Tutko is one of these guys that we hear about all the time. We hear about him from other police officers. We hear about them from people in the system, that he's not always forthright and honest. Unfortunately, the sheriff's office has had to pay for this because of his past problems. The sheriff's office has had to pay $18,000 in a civil lawsuit because they conducted his internal affairs without a investigation, without a public hearing. This week, a civil rights lawsuit was filed against the county and the sheriff's office because of him clearly doing an illegal search of a woman's home. And unfortunately, that's as far as it's going. Is we as taxpayers are continuing to have to pay out money to settle claims against a deputy who still continues to work. His credibility has taken hits, and for that reason, he's our Weasel of the Week. See you next week.